Hey everyone, back to you today's video. It's JMA Friday today, having a look at weather for the coming month from the Japanese bottom. This takes us up towards the end of May actually, so we're more or less getting towards the end of spring now with these updates. In a couple of weeks we'll be moving through into the start of summer, can you believe? But we're going to have a look at the Japanese model, we'll also have a look at the CFS V2, see what's going on. Then we'll have a look at weather for next week, because some particularly wet and windy weather coming up next week. Now, before we get on with the video, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all pages at GazWeatherVids.com. Have a browse through the widgets. The widget sits just underneath weather video here on the homepage. Have a browse through and click if there's anything that you're interested in. Thanks so much, because you're going from GazWeatherVids to where that article is. We get a revenue fee on what you're doing. There's also video ads on the page. They open out within the content, then they close back up again when you've watched it. You can give them a watch. You'll be helping to pay for the website. Thanks very much. Getting involved. All these things are essentially paying for me to sit here and talk to you via GazWeatherVids.com. The links to the long-range models that we're using, the JMA and the CFS, can be found on the links page, so check that out if you want to see these charts for yourself. So let's get on with the video. I'm going to start off with 500 millibar height anomaly charts, broken down into weekly periods from the Japanese model. Blue is extrapolating to low pressure, red, yellow is extrapolating to high pressure. So the first week period takes us from the 24th of April through to the 1st of May, so into the start of the new month. And what we find for this one is that we've got quite a deep area of low pressure sitting around just to the north of the country. The ridge has been dominating most of April, going off to the south. The jet stream is coming through, something like that, so we're on the cool side of the jet, and we're in a trough of low pressure. It's going to be quite a disturbed, unsettled and cool week coming up. And of course this change has been predicted by the JMA and the CFS long range models. It was predicted right at the very start of April, so very good performance by these longer range models to be picking up on this change. I think they underestimated the extent of the dryness and the warmth that we've had through most of April, but there was always a signal that there would be quite a lot of anticyclonic influences for April until the very end of the month, when it would all go down the tubes, and that is how things have played out, albeit with much warmer, drier conditions than anticipated. So a fairly good performance there, so in terms of this change from both the JMA and the CFS. Now, the coming weekly, the next week period, I should say, going from the 1st to the 8th of May, shows that the jet stream is just coming up a little bit, just coming back north ever so slightly. It's still unsettled. We've still got low pressure in the Atlantic and around the UK. The jet stream is running through something like this, as heights are just strengthening ever so slightly down to the south. What it basically means that the first week of May is likely to still be very unsettled. It's just that the flow should turn more westerly, probably even southwesterly, and that could just lift the temperatures up a bit, so perhaps a bit warmer through that part of May, the first week of May, but even so, still really quite an unsettled week coming up, particularly compared to what we're used to. And then go through to the final two weekly periods. This takes us from the 8th to the 22nd of May. What we find for this one is that we've got the ridge just strengthening down to the southwest of the country, trough to the east and a trough to the west. The flow is going a bit like that, so we may be going on to the mild side of the jet there, and we may be getting some high pressure ridging up from the south as well, so that could be signs of an improvement there through the middle part of May. We could start to lift the temperatures up a bit, turn it drier, warmer, and yeah, it could turn quite pleasant under that scenario. It's a little bit of a way off, and the signal there isn't great. It's quite a weak signal, but I think overall that is what the JMA is hinting at. The middle part of May shows an improvement. Let's have a look at the CFS V2, and these again are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly period. The first week period takes us from the 21st to the 27th of May, so the week that we're currently in. And the high pressure is going out to the northwest, so it's retrogressing and it's slipping down to the southwest as well. This trough of low pressure is developing to the north and the east of the country. Jet stream is going something like that. So it's a changing period, it's transitional period, going from sort of dry, warm weather to unsettled conditions. We go through to the next weekly period and look at this. It's perfect agreement with the JMA. We've got that deep trough of low pressure sitting right over top of the country. The jet stream is going down to the south like that. So it's cool, it's unsettled through that week period. Temperatures will be significantly below average on that sort of a setup. It's also likely to be very unsettled as well. Move through to the next week period, the 5th to the 11th of May, very similar to the JMA again, because what we find is that the trough of low pressure positions more to the west of the country. It's still influential, but it's not sitting over the country, it's not putting down that cold air from the north. Instead, the flow is going sort of westerly, so temperatures will be lifting up, albeit it's still relatively unsettled signal, but the temperatures are showing a recovery there, I would think. And yeah, it's signs of an improvement, albeit a slow one, starting to take place from the south. And then the final weekly period, going from the 12th to the 18th of May, so through that middle part of the month. And look at this, the high pressure then rebuilds to the east of the country, so it's setting up over Central Europe and Scandinavia. That trough of low pressure is being pushed right out into the middle of the Atlantic. The jet stream and the flow going like that. So we're going on to the warm side of the jet, or the mild side of the jet, through the middle part of May. Ridge building around and slightly to the east of the country. Again, very similar to the Japanese model. That is signs of improvements for the middle part of May. Will be turning drier and warmer on that setup. So I think we have got quite a good agreement there between the JMA and the CFS for how things are set to play out through the course of the next month. It's very unsettled through the very end of May, very end of April into the start of May, and then through to middle of May, it improves, turns drier and warmer. That's the signal this morning from those two. If I have a look at the charts for next week, as I said, it looks like it could be some very unsettled weather next week. So this is the GFS chart for Tuesday, the 28th, low pressure is already around the country. The transition to this unsettled weather is starting today. There are going to be showers in the west today. Don't think they'll get into the east until this evening, but gradually it's going to be a deterioration day by day with more and more sort of showery rain developing. As we run through the course of next week, what the GFS does is develops this area of low pressure down to the southwest of the country, and that becomes a very major feature excuse me, by the time you get through to Thursday the 30th, last day of the month. That low pressure sitting right over top of the country, that would be bringing wet and windy weather, very inclement weather indeed, into the country through the middle part of next week. And then we go through to the second half of next week, so this is into Friday the 1st of May, and that low pressure then is drifting to the east, pulling the winds back into the north. So we start with Bank Holiday weekend on a pretty dismal note there, very cool and unsettled conditions. The ECMWF is in agreement for the start of next week, the low pressure to the north of Scotland bring down this cool, showery, northwesterly flow. That sticks around through to the middle of next week, and then this area of low pressure, this time to about just to the south of the country, but it's still the same idea, which around Wednesday, Thursday, quite a nasty area of low pressure is developing through or close to the country, possibly bring some very wet weather, and then that drifts eastwards by the end of next week, and the winds will turn back into the north once again for the start of May. The GEM is in agreement also. Here we go for early part of next week, low pressure north of Scotland, bringing in this cool, showery, west-northwesterly wind. And then that area of low pressure comes in Wednesday into Thursday. There it is. It goes down to 995 millibars, essential pressure of that low pressure on the GEM. So really deep low pressure coming in, very wet and windy conditions Wednesday into Thursday. And going through to Friday, we maintain unsettled conditions. Look at all these areas of low pressure queuing up in the Atlantic, waiting to come in on the GEM, and another one comes in as we go through to Saturday the 2nd of May, bringing yet more wet and windy weather to start off what I think could be a pretty dismal May Day bank holiday weekend. I'm not quite prepared to say that is what's going to happen just yet, but the signal really isn't great for the May Day weekend. So we're updating, doing the updates for that weekend on the events page at the moment. Keep checking back for all the updates. I don't think I'll do one today, but probably the next one will be tomorrow evening. But yeah, I think the May Day weekend could be quite poor. But coming back to next week's weather, yeah, I think we're going to be in for unsettled conditions. It's starting today, but break down to the dry weather that we have had through May. We've got showers coming through April. We've got showers coming into the west. They're gradually going to come across the country through the course of the weekend, so it goes downhill gradually over the weekend. And then looking ahead to next week, very unsettled conditions. And then the next month, I think we're going to be in for an unsettled start to May before maybe signs of improvements, drier and warmer for the middle part of the month. That's the plan at the moment. As ever, these longer range models that we've been using today are highly experimental, so don't take it too seriously. Weekend forecast tomorrow. It's going to be a very unsettled one, I think. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.